Welcome to another episode of Seeing Them Live, a podcast featuring memorable concert stories from live music fans. Everyone has a concert story, and hopefully, one day, we'll hear yours.
The story, this Jew actually broke my wrist breakdancing at the tunnel. I had to move back upstate because of that scenario.
Eric Vollweiler is a seasoned producer, marketing consultant, and strategist in the film festival and entertainment industry with nearly 2 decades of experience helping festivals and creators connect with audiences, sponsors, and industry partners. He began his career in entertainment while studying at Emerson College and has since become known for his expertise in securing sponsorships, advertising, celebrity bookings, and public relations for a wide range of film festivals and events, including work alongside major festivals such as Sundance, Cannes, and Toronto. In addition to his industry accomplishments, Eric continues to innovate in festival production and arts advocacy with a long-term vision centered on inclusion, community impact, and supporting the next generation of creative talent. Eric, welcome to Seeing Them Live.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, lots to talk about, lots of cool things, cool concerts and stuff you're currently doing. We'll start with your first concerts, Eric, but I wanted to put this out there first. In a podcast that you have on your website, you mentioned your dad took you to the theater and Broadway shows.
Correct.
But your mom took you to these concerts. And one, I thought, man, your dad's getting off easy, not having to navigate 70,000 deadheads. But it seemed to me, after you filled out the guest form, that this shaped all of these stories leading up to your career, kind of shaped who you became. And you went to school then in college and you refined it and such. But these first concerts, going to the theater with your dad and your work at some of these New York City nightclubs, which is also really cool. We'll talk about that. You know, to me, seemed it really shaped who you are currently.
Yes, I would say that, again, my mom and dad. My dad brought me to the theater and to the movie, from theater to movies. And my mom brought me to my first concert, which was Aerosmith and Black Crowes. Black Crowes opened up for Aerosmith. And that was where I'm actually living now, the Saratoga Performing Arts Center. That's where that concert was. I saw a lot of concerts at Saratoga Performing Arts Center here in upstate New York.
You were like 14 years old when she brings you to these shows. And this was Aerosmith's Pump Tour. And I believe the Black Crowes Shake Your Moneymaker Tour.
Yes.
And this place, I looked at some pictures of it. It's a band show. It holds 25,000 approximately with 5,200 seats in like a pavilion, I guess, covered. So when you went to this particular show, you must have been like an Aerosmith fan, I would imagine.
Yes, for sure. I mean, I still love Aerosmith, but it was, definitely a very powerful and rocking performance. Both the Black Crowes and Aerosmith. Steven Tyler definitely is very creative and powerful when he performs.
Yeah. And were you guys out on the lawn then, general admission, or did you have a seat?
If I could remember correctly, my mom had us, we were inside the venue.
Okay, that's good. Did anybody else come with you, a friend or anything?
Yeah, my best friend, who I'm still friends with, he was more a guitar player and more into the music. I love music, and I still do to this day. Matt was the guitar player.
And also that year, 1990, you see the Grateful Dead and Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It's like a double bill, and they only did this a couple of times from what I was reading.
And that was in Buffalo, correct? At Buffalo Highmark Stadium, it was called.
And the capacity there looks like it's about 70,000 people.
It was a big show. And actually, we left early. And the funny story is that there were people behind us who were, I think, high on some type of drugs. And it kind of made me scared. Actually, we left early at that concert. I was able to see Jerry Garcia in Albany, New York as well back in the day. So I saw Jerry Garcia, not just in Buffalo, but it was called the Knickerbocker Arena in upstate New York and Albany as well.
Okay. Because my mom used to take me and my friends to concerts all the time. And you're right. Like the first time I ever encountered a really drunk or just out of it person, I was probably like 13 or 14. And it kind of freaked me out. Like, what's wrong with this person? And they're coming towards you. And I'd never seen anything like that, somebody acting that way. It was very strange.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of different drugs at those concerts.
Yeah, especially in like the Grateful Dead and stuff. That whole experience in the parking lot and stuff is an event to itself, you know?
Correct. It's like a circus.
Yeah. So did your mom then, did she take you to other concerts then until you maybe got your driver's license or what have you?
I think it was just Aerosmith, Black Rose, and the Grateful Dead. And as I got older in high school, I would go with friends. One of my favorite concerts was Ziggy Marley, and that was in Vermont, Ski Mountain. He also really knows how to perform, and we were up on top of the mountain watching that performance. That was pretty cool. That was during the summer.
Wow, that's going to be pretty breathtaking. I would imagine that the view from there.
Yes,
So then, Eric, you'd mentioned again in this podcast that I'd listened to on your website that you worked at this place called Tunnel, which is a massive nightclub. It's huge. But at some point, you moved to New York City, like 19.
96.
Yeah. So you're like 20 years old or so.
I graduated high school in 95 and I moved to New York in 96.
Okay. And then you worked at your first nightclub where, again, you're like kind of shaping you, showing you the ropes, so to speak. Was it the China Club?
Correct. I was passing out postcards and flyers to 2 or 3 a.m. outside of the club.
Okay. And you met this guy, Michael James. He's a promoter.
Yes. I met Michael James actually at Life, which was in the Village. And Michael James was my mentor.
Yeah, because I looked this guy up, Michael James, and there was like an article about him where they referred to him as a model wrangler.
Interesting.
So he could bring to your club professional models, female models, I guess, add to the atmosphere, which was like a service he would provide, I guess, in addition to all these other things that he was doing at these nightclubs. I'd mentioned to you that I interviewed author Jesse Rifkin. He's written a book called This Must Be the Place: Music, Community, and Vanished Spaces in New York City. And it's an awesome book. He goes from the beginning of the 60s and all the way to the current time. And he talks about this place, the Tunnel, where you worked. And it's like this massive nightclub. It's 80,000 square feet and it has train tracks running through the center of it or something.
Again, this was a long time ago, so I don't remember that, but I do remember there were different locations. You had hip hop on one level, and then you had house music. It was kind of separated. The story is true. I actually broke my wrist breakdancing at the Tunnel. I had to move back upstate because of that scenario. I had to move back upstate and start college.
Okay. So you were actually like breakdancing on the dance floor or something, or?
Correct.
Okay. So at this place, though, Jesse Rifkin mentions this in his book. There's like a now famous bouncer that was there, doorman, which he's known earlier as Mark Sinclair, but had since changed his name to Vin Diesel. So I asked you, did you ever meet Vin Diesel? And you said, yes, but you worked with him. You were doing some catering or something, right?
Correct. Me and Mark Sinclair worked at Glorious Foods, which was a very elite catering company in Manhattan. It was based on the Upper East Side is where their offices were. And my uncle, who was not blood related, but my uncle Richard was the head captain of Glorious. And I was young when I worked there back in 96, of course. But Mark worked on the kitchens and setting up kitchens. And we worked parties in the Hamptons. We worked parties in upstate New York for the races, the horse race. They do a horse race museum event gala. He came up for that. And then, which is interesting, is years later, when I was in LA, he has a nonprofit organization that deals with children in filmmaking. His organization was part of the Marina Del Rey Film Festival. I actually asked him to come and promote his organization. So I feel like it's just the connection through Glorious Foods is how I know Mark Sinclair.
Okay. So not necessarily as the doorman there.
No, it was through catering.
Okay. Yeah. Cause again, these things dovetail. He has a film festival and you have that listed on your website. You have lots and lots of film festivals. There's tons of them. There's a whole list on your website. I encourage people to check that out. So just a couple more concerts, Eric. You went to this U2 concert for free and we didn't really exchange much information on this.
Oh, right. So I was actually outside of the concert, but we were up on this, like sometimes like outside offices. So I got to see the concert for free, but I was outside of the actual concert. But it was the Saratoga race course was where the concert was. And because we were on top of it, we climbed up. I still got a good view. I was there with my friends.
But yeah, I guess that's one way to see a concert. So now, Eric, I'd like to transition into this Beastie Boys concert, which I had never heard of before, which again dovetails into what you do for a living. And maybe that's why you were there. This show was on January 23rd, 2006 at the Legacy Lodge in Park City, Utah during the Sundance Film Festival.
They were premiering their documentary at Sundance. So they had a performance at that lodge. Actually got into the performance for free, which is kind of interesting. But as soon as they opened the gates and they're checking tickets, I just ran in. They're my favorite. And it's kind of interesting because I didn't learn about the Beastie Boys. I learned it from my roommate in boarding school in 1993 when I was at Darrow, which is New Lebanon, New York. My roommate, Eric, was the one that introduced me to the Beastie Boys. And that was in 1993. And then I fell in love and then I was able to see them years later in Park City. Yes.
Yeah. So were you there like working then, Eric?
I had an event in 2006. Actually, back to Sundance, I was a volunteer back in 2001. And then years later, I co-produced 7 events at Sundance.
So for this show, did you like watch the documentary? It's the documentary, it's footage from their October 2004 show at Madison Square Garden. And I watched a little bit of it. So it's kind of cool. So did you actually watch the movie or how did they work that like before the event?
I think they had their premiere of the documentary at Sundance, of course, and then they did the concert at the ski lodge as well. I didn't see it while it was premiering there, but I did see clips on YouTube.
And how big is this place? Is it a big place, small place?
The lodge was really big.
You'd mentioned at the time you got your first guest list. What does that mean? Because I went to London once and my friend's wife works for a magazine and it was so strange. We went to all these clubs and some of them were pretty small, actually, bars. But yeah, you had to be on this guest list. And if your name wasn't on there, you weren't getting in.
So for me, it was like the more people I invited and they showed up, I would get paid per person. We got a commission. And that's how it was set up.
Ah, I see. And were you in charge of the list or you just submitted the list to the club?
To the club and Michael James, who was actually the one that gave me the opportunity at the tunnel.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know how that worked. So, Eric, let's talk about your agency, the Vollweiler Agency. Is that its official name?
The Vollweiler Agency, yes. And we just launched actually at Sundance. We just had an event on Friday, January 23rd, and that's where I premiered. I wasn't there, but the nonprofit organization, which is the Latino Filmmakers Network, this was my 4th event helping them out and producing their events.
Hi, this is Charles Zona, and we're glad you are enjoying this episode of Seeing Them Live. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please fill out the form on our website at seeingthemlive.com. Also, if you like the show, please give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show. Just thinking about film festivals and such, I've never actually been to a film festival, but I was wondering, are there any parallels between a film festival and a music festival? Like festival circuits, you see some of the same bands listed.
Right.
Are film festivals also like that? Like there's a few film festivals that kind of show the same movies or not really?
So first, back to the music. I would say the biggest music and film festival is South by Southwest, which is in Austin. I've never been to it. That's on my bucket list. They do an incredible job. The first film festival I worked on actually was the DIY convention in LA, do it yourself in film, music, and books. So that was the 3 types of genres they focused on. And that was my first real working on a music / film event. That was in Los Angeles. But back to your question, there's the general film festival, and then there's the genre film festival. So that's how it's separated. This number keeps on changing, but I would say there's about 14 to 15,000 film festivals internationally and domestic. Again, I don't have the exact number because people always give you a different number and say, oh, there's 10,000, there's 20,000, but again, less than that. Film Freeway, which is a great website to check out, and you can see the different film festivals from around the globe.
You also mentioned that's a good place if people want to volunteer or maybe do an internship or try to get an internship through there.
No, I mean, just researching the film festivals, and then depending on the geography of, say, it's a filmmaker or a student, that's my focus would be to reach out to the festivals and see about volunteering or interning.
Okay, cool. So right before this interview today, I got an email from this place called the Salt Shed in Chicago, which I go to see concerts there all the time. And they're having a film festival. I'm like, oh man, maybe I can finally in February go to a film festival. It's called Crying at the Shed. And to your point, genre based, it's like tearjerker movies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and the opening night they're having a band, and then it runs Thursday through Sunday in February. So I have to go to my first film festival, maybe.
They're a lot of fun. You get to watch movies, shorts, and features. You get to network with filmmakers and creatives, and you get to eat food and drink and have a good time. They have networking events, dinners, and fundraising galas that take place to raise money for the nonprofit or the organization that hosts the festival.
And depending, I guess, on how big it is, like how many people go to Sundance approximately? Do you know?
I don't. It's a lot. This year, there was probably the most, being that it's the last year in Park City. I feel like this year was probably like the biggest celebration because that's where it started in Park City.
Okay. And when they do something like that, then they show movies at different venues, actual theaters, or how does that work, Eric?
So there are different venues in Park City. Like, for example, I worked at the Egyptian Theater, which is on Main Street, on Upper Main Street, and they have other theaters that take place. There's a high school. They use the theater auditorium in Park City. There was a high school. And then there's different venues.
All right. Yeah. So I imagine however big the festival is, they have to accommodate people and have a number of different screens and times. And I would imagine it could run pretty late into the evening.
Yeah, I think some films go past midnight.
Yeah, when we were exchanging emails before the interview, you had mentioned you're working on a new film festival or hip hop.
So the Hip Hop Film Festival is actually coming up this summer, August 20th through the 23rd. It's the 11th Film Festival. And the focus is not the music of hip hop, but the actual culture and community that focuses through a lens, through the camera of filmmaking. And we'll be screening features and shorts. We also do like an online presentation as well, virtually. And there'll be different educational filmmaker panels online as well as in person. And it takes place in different parts of New York City.
Okay. And one of your goals is to bring in young people and let the new generation of filmmakers and such.
Correct. So when I focus on a film festival, my job is usually like sponsorship and advertising, but I'm happy for the filmmakers that are screening their films. And again, their films are accepted through programmers or the board of people that watch the movies. And I'm happy because when a filmmaker gets to show their film on the big screen and have a sold out audience, it's a pretty cool feeling. For me, it's all about the filmmaker, and that's why I've been doing this for so long. I'm just an extra guy helping add on to the whole equation of the event.
Yeah. And you have a means, your agency, different ways of bringing people to this event, right? That's a service you provide.
So we're still mapping the agency out. It's a brand new adventure. So the goal is to do consulting with film festivals with it, as well as I'm starting a marketplace, which will be like a phone book where different production companies, lighting, camera, entertainment insurance, entertainment law firms will be able to list their businesses. So if a filmmaker goes to my website or a film festival goes to my website, they'll have these listings to view.
Yeah, because I think I heard or read in an interview where there's a number of different aspects where you can help these festivals out. One major thing is like having a website, obviously, social media presence, selling sponsorships, etc. That's what the Vollweiler agency is starting thing off the ground, those kinds of services to basically promote entities' film festival.
And before the Volweiler agency, it was just me doing this with all these festivals. So really, the Volweiler agency has been around forever. It's just we added a name and put a website out. So now it's different that way. But again, I've been doing the job of the Volweiler agency since I started in 2005.
Okay. And I saw on your website there were a few music festivals that I also checked out that you've worked on in the past.
Yes, to LA, which was my first, the DIY convention, do it yourself in film, music, and books. When I moved back to upstate New York, I worked on, I have it right here actually. Oh, the Move Music Festival, which was in Albany, New York. And then I worked on Music Haven Concert Series, which is my friend's event. She does it every summer. It's a free event in the park in Schenectady, New York. I also worked with some Broadway actors, Melba and Betty Buckley in New Jersey, which is music. Just a little different than a concert. I mean, it's still music. They're incredible performers, very talented. And yeah, it was very cool to work with Melba and Betty Buckley.
Cool. Yeah. So any advice, Eric, that you would give to somebody who's thinking of maybe putting together a music festival or a film festival or an event like that?
Yes, versus doing research to see what other events that are similar are taking place during the time. Then, of course, the location of the event, the music festival or the film festival, then creating a sponsorship deck, an advertising deck, and going out and start reaching out to corporations and small businesses. Kind of the rest is history. It's just raising enough funds through sponsorship and advertising. Of course, you have tickets. You'll be able to sell tickets. On a film festival, you do make money through film submissions, which is different than a music festival. Again, I would say the most important is once the event is created or the film festival or the music festival is ready, is to highly promote it to the media and really build your audience through social media, as well as reach out to print, television, and radio.
And that's where you come in and guide people as a consultant to put some of these pieces into place.
Correct. Through the Volweiler agency, which again, we're still in the beginning phases, but that's the goal.
The list of events on your website is very impressive. It spans many states and, like you're saying, genres and all sorts of things. So I encourage people to check that out. And anything else, Eric, that we didn't cover that you might want to highlight or talk about?
If you go to my website, it's volweileragency.us, and I'm definitely open to working on more music festivals and theater, which is something I started with. Theater was really the education that went into the film world, besides the clubs, of course. And thank you very much for having me on the show. And the most important is interning and volunteering is something important for the younger generation, but even the older generation.
That's really cool to be thinking about giving people a start in this kind of industry, and you're helping to make that happen, as well as the high level advertising and sponsorship piece. It's almost like from the ground floor, grassroots sort of all the way to Hollywood, I guess, right?
Over the years, yes. There's a saying, never ask the CEO for a job, but ask him to learn. That's something I go by. And then also I learned the more humble you are, the better you'll be in life.
Exactly. I agree. Very well said. All right, Eric, people can check out your website and contact you if they have any ideas or thoughts about music or film festivals. Thanks for coming on Seeing Them Live.
Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap for our show. I want to thank today's guests for sharing their concert stories with us. Make sure to check out our show notes at seeingthemlive.com for links to websites, photos, and other artifacts mentioned in the show. I also want to thank my producer, Doug Florzak. The theme music for the show was composed by Doug and is featured on his album, Flagstone. If you have a concert story you'd like to share on our podcast, please visit our website and click on Become a Guest in the main menu. Then fill out the form and click the Submit button. If you seem like a good fit for the show, we'll contact you via email. I guess it's time to head for the exits. We'll see you next time on Seeing Them Live.